Hi everyone, it's Linda. Welcome back again. Welcome to Home Now. It's Friday, so I hope you guys are enjoying your day. I hope you guys are home now and just relaxing. And if you're joining in with us, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for tonight. I'm always excited, but again, tonight it's a very special session because Home Now, we started a new segment, and the segment is going to be Hmong Men Now. And so we are going to dedicate the entire month of November to the amazing men in our community because we know that we have many of them who have done amazing work. And so tonight we have Kong Lor with us. So he's going to kick off this entire segment with us. So we're so excited to have him here with us. Hi, Kong. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Hey, Linda. Thanks for having me on this really special broadcast. I followed your page, and it's been nice hearing the conversations and just the different insights on all sorts of topics. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Again, thank you for being here. So if you guys are just tuning in with us and for the first time and you're unsure on how we do this, typically we just start off with, I introduce Kong, a little bit about him because he kind of provides a bio about himself, kind of talk a little bit about him, and then we go on into the interview. I ask him questions in which I think will be important to our viewers. And then at the very end, if you stay till the very end, you have the opportunity to ask any questions that you have for Kong. And so he will be here. We're going to answer all the questions you need. So to get us started, I guess a little bit about Kong. I'm just probably going to read the little bio that I put in the description box for this event. So I'm just going to read a little bit about it, and then Kong, you can tune in and tell us afterwards more detail about yourself. Okay?
Sounds great.
Okay. So Kong Lor, he's from, I can't say this part right, so you might want to tell me the place you were from. How do you say it?
Or Raleigh.
Raleigh, thank you. I want to say Raleigh, but I'm like, I don't think I'm saying this right. But okay, so Kong is from Raleigh, North Carolina. He is one half of the acoustic duo, the Kong and Shu Project. And if you guys have heard of it, I know I have. It's an amazing project. It's a he's also a multimedia artist, an entrepreneur, a social media influencer, and a community activist. He graduated from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where he earned a double degree in communication studies and new media and design. Last year in 2016, he received his master's of graphic design from North Carolina State University. And so I'm super excited to have him here because we're going to talk a little bit about his background and talk about the work that he's done in the community and talk about the project that he's developed back in 2007. So Kong, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Kong Lor. I am originally from Morganton, North Carolina, but I've been living in Raleigh, North Carolina for the past about 4 years now. Moved here for school, but not many people know this, but I was actually born in Fresno, California. So that's it's always nice to visit Fresno. It's always like a homecoming. So I'm originally from Morganton, live in Raleigh now, but I was born in Fresno, California. Spent the majority of my life here in North Carolina. Ever since 91, 92. So pretty much we moved here when I was 3 years old. I have memories of California, but not, I would probably say like not anything like special during that period of my time in my life. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I guess you can say I've been going to school for basically my whole life. So in 2016, it was the first time that I ever took a little break away from school to work. So I've been working for about a good year and a half now, and kind of been thinking about going back to school. So we'll see where it goes from here.
That's awesome. Okay, so then talking about school, we're going to start off with talking about your background, your educational background. I want to start off with that piece because that piece for me is always very important. It's also important. It's always really important to kind of share your experience in education and hopefully help others with if they're in the same shoe or trying to achieve the same pathway that you have. So I know we mentioned a little bit about that. You double major in communication studies and new media design. So can you explain to us, I know it's probably been a while back, right? But can you explain to us why you decided to major in both of these two?
Yeah, so when I came out of high school, went to college, got into college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest with you. During that first semester, one of one of the required courses was a communication studies course. So I took that course. It was like an intro to communications, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed public speaking. I really enjoyed just thinking thinking on my toes. So I started taking more courses, like more advanced courses, like communication studies, PR, family communications, and it just really, what made me go into that field was when my third year came around and I needed to choose a major. I was like, I've been taking like so many communication studies courses. I think I'm just gonna, wrap up this this bachelor's with this field. So that's what I did. I applied to the program and I got in. So, but at the same time, throughout my life, art was always something that I thrived at. So, but at that time, going to school, your parents, they have this vision for you, and art was not part of the plan, because art to traditional parents, it's like the devil. So it's like you can only do that as a hobby, but you cannot do it as a career. So that mindset was already instilled in me when I went to college. So my path was either to become a lawyer or like a doctor. But my third year in to my communication studies program, I started to look into other programs that the school offered, and they offered art courses, like your digital media, your drawing, painting courses. And I was like, if next semester, if I can fit these classes into my schedule, I can possibly just take it for fun as like, so that I can earn enough credits to graduate. So what happened is I was about the third year into college, I started taking these art courses, and then I found out that I could actually minor in this particular field. So I was like, let me do that first. So what I did was I graduated with my communication studies degree and a minor in art. So I graduated, I came back home for a semester after that. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't find a job, didn't have the experience. So I would probably say coming back home, I went to school about 2 hours away from home. So I went back home for the semester, and I would probably have to say that was one of the most miserable times in my life, because I was confused. There was expectations, from my parents. And I felt, honestly, I had a bachelor's degree, but I felt like a loser because I felt like, I won the prize, and that's the piece of paper. But at the same time, I really didn't. I feel like I accomplished anything big. So I was like, you know what? Let me look into turning that minor into a double major. So I did my research, and the school, I think it was fate or something, because the school created a new program in the art field called New Media and Design. So I looked into that, and I was like, well, if I go back to school for a year and a half, since I already have a minor, I can double major. So that's what I did. I applied back to the same college. I got back in, took a year and a half to finish that. So so, and after that, I felt complete. I felt like, this is where I needed to be. And then, so for my undergrad, that was the whole story behind it.
Okay. You mentioned a little bit about art being something that kind of like parents or kids are kind of like down on, right? And so the funny thing that I kind of see that you were majored in art and communications, and so not a lot of people know about communications. And so how did that make you feel, being in both communications and in art?
I'm after earning a double degree. It's almost like taking two different fields and mashing it up together, and that becomes the it's like your superpowers, your strength. And so taking both of them and mashing it up, it made a lot of sense because with multimedia and design, it's you have to you're communicating ideas and visually. So if you take the theory and the concepts of communication studies and you apply it to design, it also helps, and vice versa too. You can verbally have a conversation, but if you use visuals to communicate your ideas across, it makes sense too. So in the end, it wasn't meant to be, but it just happened, and it just tied in together. So I was really happy with it.
Okay, so I want us to talk a little bit more about your communication major. So, a lot of us who make that mistake of going into a particular major that's going to get us a job, right? I mean, it's not a mistake, but the mistake is that sometimes we do that and it's not our passion. We find ourselves miserable at the end, right? And so for people who are considering going to communication, but then again, they're kind of like, okay, I'm not going to get a job out of this. I'm not going to get anything out of this. What would you say? So what did the courses offer for you? What did you get out of it?
I think that everyone should determine that before they make the leap into their particular field. If you want to make money, yeah, there are particular fields that you can make really good money in. But Linda, like what you said, you have to identify the difference between a passion and your end goal. And I think a lot of people get disappointed because they even say, let me become a lawyer so that I can earn a lot of money. But in the end, are you really happy in that field? And vice versa too. It's like, I want to do something I love, but are you okay if you don't make much money?
Yeah.
So before you choose a career path, I think that you have to come to a decision to say, should I go for a passion and make less money, or should I go for more money, but I don't really enjoy it? Or should you find a balance and say, I want to do something so that I can, earn enough for me to be happy. But everyone's different, and I think for me, I just kind of went with the flow. It's at the end of the rainbow, it's like, it's nice to have a pot of gold. But I think throughout my time in school, I think I'd rather be happy than have that money sitting at the end for me.
You're right.
Because I can live every day to the fullest without dreading to go to work or dreading in my particular field. So that's my thoughts on it. But what are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree with you. Because I'm a teacher, and I really, really love what I do. People often say, oh, teachers can make a lot of money. And we don't. We definitely don't, for all the crap that we deal with. But it's all worth it in the end, because I'm actually really, really happy with what I do. So I agree with you. Finding a balance, definitely finding a balance. I agree with you on that one. So let's talk about the courses. I want to talk a little bit about the communication courses. What did they offer you?
Can you repeat that, Elena?
Your communication courses. I want to talk about what they offered you.
I would say what I learned from my communication courses is the fact that it's learning to you're every day you do not know who you're going to come upon, and I think that what I learned is ways to solve communication problems. Like, for example, I took this course on like workplace communication, and being in the workforce now, I'm using a lot of the skills that I learned from the class, whether if it's to solve a problem, whether if it's to make sure that my coworker and I are on the same the same mindset, or where we're going towards the right path. So a lot of the skills that I learned in communication course, it's like when do I use it, or when should I use it? And I think that's what I learned the most from taking those communication studies courses.
Okay, so I want to talk about you double majoring. How difficult was that? How challenging was that for you?
I think it was two things that I really enjoyed, so I didn't really find a challenge in it. I'm not really I'm not really. I don't like taking exams, so
Okay.
I would probably say that on the communication studies side, it was more like exam based. I don't mind writing papers, but when it comes to exams, I'll probably say that that was probably my biggest challenge. In the art field, though, there are, unless you're taking like an art history course, there are no exams. So it's more like what you produce in the end, your end result. So that's why. So in the art field, as far as the challenge goes, it would be exams again for art history courses. But other than that, there was I didn't feel like there was any challenges. But I think if I would have um, taken both majors like back to back and throughout like just 4 years, I think that would be really challenging. But I think that's I support double majoring, but I would say like take it one step at a time. Don't do both at the same time.
Okay. Okay. Would you say it's probably a smart way, because we were kind of talking about finding balance between, doing something you are passionate about and doing something that's going to give you a lot of money. Do you think it's kind of a smart move to find a balance by doing that and majoring in something that might give you a lot of money, and then still minoring in whatever it is that you're passionate about?
I would support that, because it's at the end, you're now that you have a double degree, you can find a job in a particular area and see how you can apply the other degree like for that job. So now you're like a superhuman, because not only do I know like design, it's I know how to communicate with my coworkers, and that's a plus. Yeah. So and vice versa too. It's whether if I would have landed a job in the communications field, maybe I'll do some design too. So I think it's a win-win as far as like financial goals goes.
Okay. What were some opportunities that were available to you after you actually completed and received both degrees? What were some opportunities that were available for you?
After that, I went to grad school, and then I became a more of a freelance designer.
Okay.
So but as far as the options goes, I knew for a fact that I did not want to continue the communication studies path after I graduated with my undergrad. I knew it had to be art related, but at the same time, I knew that I will be able to apply my communication studies background.
Okay, so you went back to school, and so we mentioned that you went back to school and got your MA in graphic design. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you decide to switch from communication, media, and design into graphic design?
All right, so to make the long story short, when I first graduated from high school, I wanted to become a graphic designer. I was inspired by the MySpace and the Asian Avenue, and all that coding and design. So I knew that I wanted to be a graphic designer right out from high school. But what happened was, the school that I applied to, I did not get accepted into the program, and they're one of the few schools in North Carolina that offered a bachelor's in graphic design. So that was like a roadblock. So I went with my second choice, which did not offer a graphic design, a bachelor's in graphic design. So, towards the end of the second time that I went back for the double degree, it always been a goal of mine to, I felt like that demon was still inside of me. Like I couldn't get rid of it, because it felt like I lost, and I needed to redeem myself. So I planned about a year in advance. So I spent my Christmas break, the whole month of Christmas break, working on my portfolio and getting all my materials ready to apply to grad school. And the crazy thing was the school that I did not get into, they had one of the like most popular graphic design programs in the nation. So I was like, you know what, let me tackle that's the big one, and I need to redeem myself, and it's not going to hurt if I gave it a shot. So I applied in January, and I received a acceptance letter in March, and that really, like, the weight just lifted off my shoulders, because for that 4 to 6 years in undergrad, that not getting into that school bothered me so much, like mentally. It's something that at that time I was not able to admit to myself that was, you know, still in the back of my mind. But when I got accepted, that moment really changed my life. It's like defeating a level in the game that you can never ever defeat. So that's the reason why I decided to go into graphic design for my master's.
Okay. So before we go any further, can you tell us, those of us who probably don't know what graphic design is, what is graphic design?
Okay, so graphic design is a way to express communication through visual design. So for example, if you're passing through the highway and you see a big McDonald's billboard, you will, I'll probably say 60, if you're hungry, like 70 to 80% chance you will stop off at the next McDonald's to grab something to eat. So it's amazing what graphic design can persuade people what to do, like what to do. It's like when you're on Facebook and you see the colors blue and white, you know, every time that we see those colors so much since we're on Facebook, that now when you're out and about and you see that color combination, you automatically think Facebook. Another example would be, you know, the color red. I would probably say like 80 to 90% of fast food restaurants uses the colors red and yellow, because that's colors of, you know, awareness,
right,
and warning.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, KFC, McDonald's, you know, Chick-fil-A, I can go on and on, but that's all of that is a part of graphic design. It's more in like the color theory area, but once you learn about color theory, you're gonna start seeing colors in a different way.
That's so cool. It's so cool that you shared that, because I've always thought about graphic design being just like only on like only online, like creating websites. So it's so cool that you mentioned that, and the idea of color theory. It's like, I didn't know there was such a thing as a color theory. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So tell us a little bit about getting into that program. Was there a connection between the courses you've taken in your undergrad and the courses that you, or not the course, the courses you took undergrad? Were there connections between that and graphic design?
It was a whole new beast by itself.
Okay.
I thought that graduate school is going to be like undergrad, where you open up Photoshop and InDesign and you start designing away. But it was the opposite. You're opening books and you're researching and you're writing papers. But it was a nice breather, because instead of just opening, well, at first I didn't really appreciate it, because I had a different mindset of what it was. But after the first semester, things started to click. So it's, for example, it's like before I designed, I have to brainstorm and sketch out, why am I doing this, or why am I making that design decision? So that's helped me to be patient and not to just waste my time by opening up Photoshop and design away. It's cut my process in half, because by brainstorming on paper to see what you want to do and how you want to design something, I'm actually like faster when I'm on the software. So so I would say that that's what the program was about. It was more about theory and more about the process rather than your outcome.
Okay, so how did your courses, communication courses and new media and design, how did those allow you to go into a program, a graduate program of graphic design? So how was that possible?
When I took new media and design, that was basically a program that
Okay.
touched on different mediums of design. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I took like, video editing courses, graphic design courses, photography. So it actually made me more of like a multimedia artist. So
Mm-hmm.
when I chose graphic design, I didn't get a chance to talk to my professors why they chose me to be a candidate for that program, but I felt like it was because uh, they wanted to see what else I could do by using
Mm-hmm.
the other mediums, and mashing it up with graphic design. Because when I arrived to the graphic design program in grad school, all my classmates, we were all from different backgrounds. We had a
Yeah.
guy, he had no graphic design background,
Mm-hmm.
but he was in the computer programming world. So
Yeah.
graphic design was new to him, but they wanted to see how he can mash the two up
Mm-hmm.
by that. Then you have your traditional graphic design students who they came from a graphic design program. We had a student who came. She was a teacher who taught coding. So
Yeah.
no graphic design background, but she was in the program too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great to be in the program without really having like a super graphic design program. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's that was a unique thing about the program.
Yeah. Okay. Were there additional courses you had to take then in order to get in? Because you talk about how they all came with different backgrounds.
Um, if you this program did not require like a GRE, so
Mm-hmm.
it was more based on your portfolio. So
Okay.
you just had to um, you just had to have a strong portfolio. And at that time, I was freelancing and I was working part time for one of the departments in the school. So it helped me build my portfolio. But as far as classes goes, to get into that program, there wasn't any particular courses that you had to take. You had. I think they said that I think you needed to be back. You have to have some sort of like artistic background, but
Okay.
other than that, there wasn't any particular courses that we needed to take.
Okay, that's actually really good to know. So that if anybody wants to, they can actually just attempt without feeling hesitant, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So after completing your program, what opportunities were available for you? What were you able to do with that?
Um, oh, like after graduation.
Hmm. So after you completed the
So
program.
so there was two routes uh, that I was given. One route was to become an educator, because the program we had to we worked on a thesis. So by completing that, and they also offer like teaching courses.
Hmm.
So through that, we had the options to become an educator um, on a collegiate level, or
Okay.
we had the option to just go out into the workforce and into the corporate world. Uh, and for me, I I'm I would love to return to like teaching someday.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
but at that moment, I felt like the corporate transition was for me,
Hmm.
because at that time I was contracting with a company doing graphic design, and then they offered me a job about 6 months before graduation. So that option sounded, it was almost like your dream your dream job coming
Hmm.
out from college, because I didn't have that opportunity when I came out from undergrad. So
Hmm. Okay.
seeing that opportunity was really like enticing, like wow, like
Hmm.
a salary, really good benefits. Like
Yeah.
what college student wouldn't like take something like that? So
Yeah. Hmm.
that's why I went into that route.
Okay. Would you say that it's a competitive field?
I would say that it's competitive, but
Hmm.
but it's such a popular field right now. Like I'm still like receiving um, like like job listings, and
Okay.
every day there's something new, like a graphic design position or job.
Mhm.
So it's a huge field right now.
Okay.
But the most important thing is you have to be good at it and you have to really enjoy doing it.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned about earlier, you kind of brought up that you're thinking about going back to school.
Mhm.
Can you share that with us? Like, what are you planning to do? Like, what do you plan on doing when you go back?
Yeah, so after working for like officially working as like a full-time like employee for like a year and a half, and in the summer it'll be 2 years. I thought about going back to school in 2018.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at some programs. I've been it's funny that we're having this interview because I I thought there's a communication and multimedia doctorate program
Okay.
that I'm interested in right now. So
Hmm.
it's like going back to my roots in a
Yeah.
full circle.
Hmm.
So that's looking good right now for me. Um, so I've been talking to professors and I've been talking to some students from the program, and but we'll see what happens. I have to retake my GRE in a month, so that would so I have to prepare for that too. So we'll
Okay.
see what happens. But life is about taking opportunities, and
Right.
um, I felt like it's the right time right now, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. All right. So thank you for talking about your education. I think we're gonna make a little shift right now. We're gonna shift to when you were 16 years old. Okay, because you kind of shared with me that at 16 you became North Carolina's first Mr. Long Southeast. I don't know how to say it. You're gonna have to say it.
It's Warping. Do you know what that? Do you know? Do you
Waping.
know?
Okay.
You
I don't know
know?
what it is, but now they say Waping. Yes, because it looks like a Thai word, you know? So I'm
Yeah.
like, I thought it was like a Thai word, but okay, so Mr. Hmong Southeast Woking,
Yep.
right? Prince Charming.
Yeah. So
That experience.
the word Wapeng actually means memory. I didn't know that until
Go
I
ahead.
can you hear me? Okay. So the
Yeah, I
word
can hear you.
all right, so the word Wapeng actually means memory in Hmong. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful word, and that's the name of the organization here in North Carolina
Yeah.
who hosts the New Year. But as
Mm-hmm.
far as my experience goes with that, I felt like during that particular time it was an opportunity that I saw that I felt could help me be where I am today, and that's an opportunity to help me build my self confidence.
Okay.
Confidence. It's an opportunity to network and get to know other young men and leaders in our community. It was also an opportunity um, to 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 see to test my strengths and to find my weaknesses. And so when that opportunity came along, I jumped on it because I was like, this could be the start of something new here in North Carolina. So after that experience, after that first year, I became the youth coordinator for that particular program for the
Okay.
next 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since my junior year of high school, I was the coordinator for that program all the way until like almost like my third or fourth year of college, and then I
Mm-hmm.
transitioned on to new things. But yeah, that program taught me a lot, and a lot of the contestants that participated in that particular pageant, the male
Mm-hmm.
pageant, I'm really proud of them because they've all gone on to do great things too, and um, I felt like it was like a gathering of young men who are trying to find their identity,
Yeah.
and through this challenge they were able to see their strengths and fix their weaknesses. So
Mm-hmm.
shout out to everyone who participated in that program because they're all doing great things now.
Yeah, okay. I love that you're talking about that because, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was about how, we always hear about female pageants, right? But we don't often hear about male pageants. And so what would you say to encourage more Hmong men to actually join pageants? Because, sometimes they see it, or we even see it, females too, that it's something that's considered feminine, right? So what would you say to men, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's like this gap, this miscommunication, and like in regards to pageant, nowadays there's like a negative, a negative reputation, I would say, with the pageant.
Mm-hmm.
But to encourage like young Hmong male men to be a part of the pageant, I think that instead of calling it a pageant, or instead of seeing it as a pageant, see it more as like a self-development.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at it from the self-development perspective.
I love that.
Yeah. So because when people think of pageant, they think of people competing against other people, but really the pageant is really competing against yourself. And if you can defeat yourself and you can overcome that through the pageant, you're a winner. And I think that one thing that's the reason why there are a lot of like controversy after pageants, it's because people go in with the wrong mindset. They don't set goals for themselves. If they do set goals for themselves, it's to win. But if you start looking at it from the perspective of setting a goal so that you can do this for yourself, and find your strengths and weaknesses, whether you place top 3, you're gonna win, and you're gonna feel like a winner at the end. And that crown is just a way. It's a competition, and that's what competitions are. There's gonna be first, second, and third. But I would for young Hmong male or female contestants who are thinking about being a part of the pageant, I would say write down your goals and write down your intention before you compete, because in the end, if the results if they're not in your favor, you don't have a reason to be mad, because as long as you complete your intentions going into the pageant, you're going to be happy at the end. So I would say, write down and be honest with yourself while you're participating. If you can accomplish most of the goals on that list, you're a winner in the end. So that's my perspective as far as like the pageant goes.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I think I needed to hear that. I think a lot of us needed to hear that, because you're right. I think a lot of the time we see pageants like competitions where who's the prettiest one, right? Who's going to represent the community. But if we see it that way, where it's a competition against ourselves, to develop ourselves, I really love that idea. And so now that you mentioned that, when you receive the crown, what did the platform offer you? Like, what did Mr. Hmong's platform offer you? What did it allow you to do for the community?
It allowed me to meet the community as far as like participating in events and volunteering and taking on leadership positions. That's what it really allowed me to do. It wasn't the great thing about that particular platform during that particular time was it was more student or organization based. So, for example, winning that, the contestant had the opportunity to donate all the prize money to his organization. So everything, it's like an investment. It's like it goes back to your organization. It doesn't go to you. So I think that was one of the great things about that particular event, because it's like you're not only doing this for yourself, but you're doing it to represent your student organization. So as far as the platform goes, there was a platform there, and something that I think that nowadays I would probably in Hmong I would say like usually get pageant because like it doesn't have a purpose anymore. It's lost its purpose. It's like if you had a cookie recipe passed down from generations, are you gonna keep baking it and making it the same, even though you could do better? and it's the same concept with the pageant too. We have this pageant concept where it's like, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, and we're just going to crown the end. But what if organizations can, instead of just the pageant, what if these contestants goes through a leadership development program? Not only are they at practicing, but every other weekend they take leadership courses. As part of the platform. Like we have to start integrating like new ideas and new ways to really get people to join. Because here in North Carolina, they're canceling the pageant because there's not enough participants. And it's because, to me, it's because there's participants, they don't have a purpose anymore,
Right.
You know how it's gonna go, talent, speech, question, and then it's over. But what do they get out of it? A little money, but what if you can offer like leadership courses or scholarships, something more than like investing into their future? I think it'll bring out more contestants and participants.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. That's really interesting. I want to talk about how 10 years ago you created this project, right? 2007. So that's 10 years ago. You created a project called the Kong and Shu Project. So would you say that your experience with the pageant kind of influenced you in a sense to start that project, or was it something that you just came up with spontaneously?
I would say the little bits and pieces was influenced by, I would say if I didn't go through the pageant, I don't think that I would be able to take that next step, that transition, because that's actually what I transitioned to after leaving as like the coordinator of like the male pageant of North Carolina and the youth coordinator. So it was a way for me to say, I need a new challenge and for myself, because you can only do things for so long. You start to, like what I was saying a while ago, you're using the same platform or recipe like every year, and it's not changing. So I think that one of the greatest things in life is knowing when to move on. And at that particular point in my life, I knew that it was the right time for me to move on to something bigger and greater. And it happened to be the Kong and Shu project. So it was not only a way to challenge myself, but it was also a way for me to have a chance to work with my younger brother, because I'm 2 years older than him, and once I moved on to college, we were kind of separated for a year or two before we started going to school again. So it was a way for us to spend time together as brothers, do something together. When we started in 2007, it was actually my first time ever like publicly singing at all. So that was a new challenge for me too. So I was telling people, I'm a late bloomer. I didn't start singing until I was 19 years old. And so it doesn't matter what stage or point in your life. I think that it's about getting started. And and at age 19, I finally got started in music. So we created this duo, and our mission has always been to write Hmong music, because at that particular time when we came in 2007, the bands and artists were transitioning to like strictly English, and we were like, let's do something different. So we were like, before we start, we need a mission. We can't just do this because we want to do it. It would be nice if we had a mission that guided us. So our mission was to preserve the Hmong language through singing and songwriting. So that's what we did. And 10 years later, it's nice that we're still doing this. In April, I ran into Tu Zhi-xiong, and we were having a conversation. And before he left, he said, quote me on this, the Kong and Shu project made Hmong music sexy again. And I was like, and I didn't think about it until I was on my way home on the plane. I was like, wow, that's a bold statement, because at that particular time, in 2006, 2007, like Hmong music was being looked upon as let me try to find a nice word. It's like you shouldn't listen to it because it's not cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt like throughout that time, we made Hmong music cool again, like you're saying, it's sexy again. So I felt like we hope to continue doing that 10 years later.
Yeah, okay. So for those of you who don't know what the Kong Issue Project is, Kong's going to tell us a little bit about it, but then I'm just going to kind of share a little background about it. So he did share that they created the project to preserve the Hmong language, and they did it through singing and songwriting. So they performed, I believe, at a lot of events, right? And they've worked with over 50 plus student organizations and nonprofit organizations throughout the nation. And so Colin also shared a little bit about that. They were the first Hmong American band to perform or to take the stage at the Minnesota History Museum, 9 nights of music. And so at the event, you guys, what did you say? You guys had the largest attendees rate, right?
Yep.
Okay, so then tell us a little bit more about it. I know you kind of just threw in a few details here and there, but what inspired this entire project? How did you just come up with it, you and your brother? How did you two just come up with this whole idea?
So one summer, that was summer 2007, I went back home after my first year of college. And that summer, we started writing music together. And it just, by the end of the summer, we've had written a lot of songs. So we were, my oldest brother who managed us, he was like, let's do something as brothers, like once in a lifetime thing. So let's create an album, and so we took those songs and we created an album. And the funny thing was that particular summer, when we started sharing our music with the public, we didn't have a name for ourselves. So those were the big MySpace days. So I remember trying to create a music page for us, and Shu was still working on music, and it was during the dial-up internet days, so the computer was in the bedroom, and so I did run all the way to the garage where we were recording, and I asked Shu, I said, I need a URL for this page if we're going to be sharing our music. And I was like, what should we call it? And the first words that came out of Shu's mouth was the Kong Issue Project. And that's how it was created. It wasn't anything that we sat on thinking about a group name. It was just something that came naturally. And I believe in moments like that. I believe in moments of genius like that. Moments where it was just meant to be. And sharing our music, making that decision to share our music on that particular day, it really changed our lives. And I'm really thankful for that. So as far as like how that started, that was exactly how it started. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew that we had a mission, and we knew that we wanted to share our talents with the world. And that's how it started.
How was the process like? Was it difficult? Because I know that you two, your mission is to preserve the Hmong language, so you two must have been already experts in writing and speaking in Hmong, right? In order for you to write all these amazing songs.
Actually not. It was the opposite. We were.
Oh no! Wow.
Like we were good. Like we can have conversations, but we weren't really good at it. So it was also a way for us to challenge ourselves to learn how to speak, to learn how to write in Hmong. And so it's funny because if you go back and listen to the first album, there were some lyrics that was incorrect. And we were corrected later on after we released the album. So times it's like a learning process, like a nonstop learning process. So during that time, we could speak Hmong, but we weren't good at it. But I think that we are better ever since we started music.
Was it a little bit discouraging at all when you guys first started and you decided to release your music? Was it discouraging at all?
I think that I would say there was a little bit of discouragement from our parents at first. I think they saw it more of like, you're just playing around or Shiza. So they did not really see the meaning and the purpose behind it. It wasn't until like 2009 when we took them to Minnesota with us to release our second album, and for them to experience that live at the booth, trying promoting our album, and to see people come up for photos and to support us, it changed their whole perspective on what we were doing. It wasn't about you guys are just playing around anymore. It was about change, positive change.
Yeah.
How we can influence these listeners in a positive way. So on the way back home, the drive back home, my parents, I would say they admitted that they were wrong, that like music can change the world and music can make a difference. Someone take your and like sometimes people write us and say, oh, I had a bad day today and I played your music and it made me feel better, or I had a big exam last night and I played your music and I passed the exam today. So it's just comments like that. It's like music and art in the Hmong community in general is very underrated. People don't realize how powerful those tools are. And how can we use these tools to influence and create positive change? I think that's where we should. I think that's where we're headed next. Not just us, but I think it doesn't matter what medium of art you create. I think that's going to be the next big thing in the Hmong community.
Okay, so how do you think the Kong and Shu project has evolved over the last 10 years?
I think that over the last 10 years, I felt like we've influenced other singer-songwriters to write in Hmong too. And I would probably say that as far as like the last 10 years goes, I think that we were a part of the Hmong music movement to get people to sing and preserve the language through their craft. So I would say the last 10 years, that's something that I've been the most proud of. And especially when people say things like, my child don't, they don't even speak Hmong, but they listen to your music. I think that's really, it's that idea of them taking the opportunity to listen to the music that really makes me feel good. It's like we've done something positive, and we're spreading awareness here that the Hmong language is important, and that it doesn't matter if you're not a native speaker. Listening to it means a lot to us as artists. So I'll probably say the last 10 years, that's what I've been most proud of.
Okay, so what does the future look like for the Kong Shu project? What do you guys have in plan?
So the other day, so for the first time in 10 years in 2017, it was the first year where we decided not to take any shows or do anything like Kong issue related. So it was really nice. It was a really nice breather. Throughout our time in college, it was, studying and doing homework on the plane and doing shows and stuff.
Wow.
But this year was way different from doing all the traveling. It was actually a way for myself, speaking like on my behalf, just a way for me to find myself again. I felt like I was lost for a very long time. And I think it was because I've been so overwhelmed by trying to balance out so many different things in my life, such as relationships, with my family, with my friends. And I think that this year, it's like I caught up on my homework, and that's building relationships with my family and friends. So, but the future, we do plan to start writing again, start brainstorming again. And I'm excited for 2018. I think that there will be a lot of great things to come. And I think that for the Kong and Shu project, the best is yet to come.
Okay. So I don't think we kind of talked about what you're doing now. Like, what are you doing, professionally? What are you doing now?
As of right now, I took the job in the corporate world, and I'm a graphic designer in a nanotechnology field. So that's what I'm doing. I'm working with marketing to design just like promotional materials and spec sheets and graphic design things. But we'll see where it goes from here too. It's like earlier what I said about going back to school. I'm working on some. My ultimate goal is to be my own boss. I learned that being in the corporate world, I learned that it can be really difficult, even though the work environment is healthy. I find it to be it's a self learning process too. Not that I don't like the people that I work with. I think that I think that everyone's great, but sometimes you just pick out little things like what if I can make my own shots? Like what if I can call my own shots? What if I can make my own decision? What if I want to work in my shorts today, or whatever? If I want to work from Paris today, remotely, like that's what I want to do. That's my ultimate goal. So I'm working towards my ultimate dream, and that's to be my own boss.
And do you think that's something that's possible to do without education?
I think that it's something possible to do without education. Something that I learned is I think that we are surrounded by so many resources nowadays. Yeah. It's unbelievable. You can learn something on YouTube. You just got to type it in. You just got to pick up a book and learn something. So I think that it's about self-educating yourself. Yeah. And even throughout college, it was always about self-educating yourself. Like self-educate. Yeah, you're taking a course, you're taking a class, but it's really up to you to make the decision if you want to turn in the homework, if you want to read the book, if you want to really understand the subject. So I think that as long as you can self-educate yourself, you can learn anything. So I'm a believer and I'm a supporter for higher education, but at the same time, I think that if you can make it on your own, and if you're willing to pick up that book, and if you're willing to educate yourself, anything is possible. It's like everyone takes different paths, and if that's your path, I believe that it's possible, even though you don't have an education, some sort of diploma or paper saying that you've accomplished something.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question on a more personal note. It kind of just popped up in my head because I kind of recently had a conversation with a friend because I kind of told this person that I wanted to go back to school, okay, because I'm kind of in the same shoes as like you are, okay. So I've been working as a teacher for about 2 years now, and I'm thinking about going back because I love what I do, but again, it's just sometimes I feel like, what if I can call my own shots, right? And so I want to go back to school. So I want to go back for my doctor's. And so my friend, we kind of talk about, well, you don't need to kind of really do that, right? Because there's that possibility of not doing it and still just being able to call your own shots without having to invest a ton of money into getting a doctor's degree. How do you feel about that? Because you kind of talk about how it is possible to do without education, and you are considering going back. So what do you think about that?
I think that it's really it comes down to your end goal. Even for me, if I were to pursue a doctorate degree, it's not to make more money. That's not my end goal. My end goal to receive my doctorate is more a way to challenge myself as a Hmong American citizen. I think it's more of a way for me to challenge myself and say, how far can I go? Like if I know that if I know that there is still something out there, I want to continue going towards it. Like, let's say if getting my master's is, if that was like the highest level, I'm going to keep going on and should I go on and get another master's? But I know that there's something better out there. And it's the same concept in life too. When you know there is something better, it's always like, what do I have to do to get there? And for me to know, if I didn't know that a doctorate degree exists, I probably wouldn't. That wouldn't be one of my goals. But I know that it exists out there, and I know that if I can achieve it, if I know if I can. It always goes back to my user journey. What will it take to get that? And I think that when I ask myself that, it automatically becomes a challenge for myself. And
Okay.
so that's, but I think it's having, you don't need to get it, but I think that it's your why. You know, I think when you can find your why, you can make a decision whether to go for it or not.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to, it's right now 6 o'clock. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of just open up the floor for any viewers if they have any questions. But if they don't, in the meantime, we can go ahead and talk about another question. And this question is probably one of the most important for the Hmong woman now. And so at the end of I guess, what does it mean for you to be a Hmong woman? What do you have for other Hmong women? But in your case, what are Hmong men? And what advice do you have for other Hmong men and for our youth?
Let me charge my laptop really quick, and then I'll answer you.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
All right, but this particular year alone, 2017, it has been a very interesting year. I think that my eyes, it has never been opened like so wide before. I think that this was a year where people, like everyone, I would say, was fighting for something. Whether it was for gender equality, whether it was for to build a road or whatever it was, everyone was fighting for something. And I would have to say that this year alone really opened my eyes to seeing that we have to that we need to find a way to really express like equality. I'm just not talking about gender equality, but like just, I don't know, we've been fighting it for so long on so many different levels, but I felt like when we get close to it, we tend to take a few steps back. I don't want to go into politics or anything, but like just like this past year, I felt like we were, as a country, we took so many steps forward, but I think now that this whole thing happened, we're kind of stepping back a little. But as far as the meaning of being a Hmong men, I think that if we take the word Hmong out, we're just men like everybody else. If we take that label off, we're just like everybody else. But to be a Hmong men, from my perspective, it means balancing two worlds. And when I say balancing two worlds, it's balancing myself as a Hmong man, as an American, and also balancing that traditional Hmong man that lives deep inside of me. And when I say that traditional Hmong man that lives deep inside of me, it's family values, and learns to balance that with being a professional Hmong American man. And it's just a a quick example, but being a Hmong man, we have responsibilities, and that's to take care of our family, our parents, and the people around us. And for example, a day or two ago, I received a text message that says, "Come home this Saturday. We need to prep for like an event." But I have plans already, so I have to step back into the Hmong American man inside of me and say, on a professional level here, I like to make plans a week or two in advance. So to finding the courage to go back to the traditional Hmong man in me and telling my family, telling them, sorry, I can't come home this weekend. I already have plans. I think that is one of the biggest challenges for me. But to continue practicing, being able to jump back and forth in both worlds, I think that that's what it means to be a Hmong man for me. It's like being able to balance both worlds. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm sure with Hmong women, it's the same. It's a similar concept too.
Yeah,
But
it is.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's because, I've never asked anyone that. Like, I don't think I've ever asked anyone, what does it mean for you to be a Hmong man? But I ask women that a lot. And so to hear it from you, it's like we're not that different. We're actually not that different.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that the only difference is, it's the title of a woman and a man. But honestly, like as a Hmong man, we tend not to talk about it because I think sometimes it's seen as like a sign of weakness when you talk about the things you have to do,
Yeah.
the duties that you have. Jean where like
Mhm.
you know going to a eating party and helping out, staying all night. Growing up, it was almost like we were almost taught like yeah, you go do it, but don't complain about it. So I think that we should complain. I'm not encouraging people to complain about it, but we should talk about it. We should talk about it.
Yeah.
We should have conversations about it. But I think that that's why traditions tend to not change as much because we don't talk about it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like when we see something bad, you just kind of like let it go because it's you don't want to challenge the norms. But I think as Hmong men, we have to what we have to instill into our youth and Hmong men in general is we need to talk about these things and we need to have open conversations. And let's not live so traditional. How can we incorporate new things with traditions and still make it work, but in a way where it actually flows better than what it was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question? I kind of just thought about this because you talk about how we kind of just go with the flow, right? But a lot of Hmong women are starting to kind of challenge the norms, and I think the reason why they're doing that is because of education. I think education has allowed them to do that. And so my question for you is, what do you think it is that might be stopping men from actually speaking up, challenging the norms?
No, it goes back to I would say it goes back to traditional values.
Okay.
It's not that men like Lu Cha, but I think it's because there's this thing within us where we don't want to disrespect someone who is older than us, whether if it's your parents, your dad, or whether it's your uncles. But I think for myself, ever since I was young, I've always been like kind of like the rebel. If the guy who says, "Hold up, that's not right," and I get stopped a lot by like other people. I get stopped by my own family members saying, "Hey, you need to chill," or you need to calm down. But for me, it's like, but it's wrong. I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like that person shouldn't say that. That uncle shouldn't say that. But I've always been the rebel, and I've gotten in trouble for it like many times. But I continue to do it because it's about having a conversation. It's kind of like if someone does something wrong and you don't tell that person, hey, you need to stop, they're going to go on. There's going to be another victim.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. So I think that because like even as like a I'm 29 now, but when I go out to like eating parties, some uncles, they still look at me like a child. They still treat me like a child. So for me to raise my voice and to tell them man to man, I'm not a child anymore. It raises awareness,
Yeah.
It's like the next 29-year-old man you come across, don't treat them like a child.
Right.
So as far as like, standing up for your rights and voicing your opinions, I totally support that. Like earlier this year, there was an issue that dealt with like Hmong American females that I was not aware of, but I did not know that it was such a an issue where a sensitive issue. But when I had said something and I felt like I was being attacked. And in moments like that, it's opportunities to realize that, maybe these individuals are fighting for something because it's true, like my parents always says, if people don't voice their opinions unless they see something wrong. Like people don't advocate for something because they want to, or they're just doing it on purpose. It's because something's wrong here. And so I'll probably say that that's something that I learned, to be more aware of the issues, and to listen, to open my ears. And I hope that my Hmong brothers, I hope that the youth doesn't also takes the opportunity to hear people out, not assume things, to really get the facts straight first before saying something, or before making yourself, saying something that you wish you shouldn't have said. So I would say my message to the Hmong men and the youth is to listen twice to something, just not once, but really take the time to really listen to something before you voice your opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So we have a question from one of our viewers. It's from Amber Yang. I'm going to put it up on the screen so that you can also see it. Amber asks, how do we encourage our brothers to continue their education like you, Kong? I would also like my Hmong brothers to stop working so hard with their hands and more with their, can't see the last word, with their minds.
Yeah, well, that's a great question from Amber. I think that I think about this question a lot too. And it's having the right male role models that you can relate to. Because growing up, I'm the second youngest out of 7 kids. I have an older brother in my family who was the first in my family to go to college, and to me that inspired me. I also had an uncle who he was married, but he had a child, but he recently finished his PhD. And it's moments like that where, for me, I was lucky to have male role models in my life, because the other role models that I looked up to was my dad, my uncle, but they didn't have that opportunity. So I looked up to them as role models for certain things. But as far as education goes, I looked up to my uncle, I looked up to my brother, and I looked up to Hmong brothers who were going off to higher education. But I think that the solution to getting Hmong brothers to stop working so hard with their hands and more their minds, it's to create opportunities for them to learn. It's like growing up, it's like when I was finishing up high school, I kind of thought to myself, like, I'm going off to college, but why aren't my peers doing the same thing? Isn't it the thing to do? But when I took a good look at their story was way different from mine. Yeah. They did not have brothers or sisters in their family who went off to higher education. The only thing they knew how to do was go into the workforce after high school. Because it was because I assumed that they had the same opportunities that I did, or role models that I did. So I would say that the solution to that would be, finding role models that they can relate to. And I think that with social media nowadays, there are a lot of people that I follow online that inspires me. Young and older folks. So I think that nowadays, where you can only be inspired by the men and the friends around you, but you could be inspired by anyone you want.
Yeah, right. Okay. So Kong, if anyone should want to contact you after this interview, how can they contact you?
You can I love using Facebook as a platform to communicate with my friends and family. So you're more than welcome to add me at facebook.com/KongLor. That's KONGLOR. You're more than welcome to email me at konglor@gmail.com. And we can move from there. Yeah, but that's how you can contact me if you have any questions, or you want to have a conversation. I'm always open to it.
Okay, so then before we close this, Kong, is there anything else that you'd like to share or say to the entire, all our viewers and people out there?
I just want to encourage everyone to, keep going, like try and find your passion. It doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are. I think that it's going back to the conversation earlier. It's that spark of genius that really gears you towards where you need to be. Like right now in my life, I felt like 2017 was more like a rest year for me. It wasn't like a year where I felt like I thrived. But it was a new pace and it was a new experience. But I don't feel like I lost anything. I feel like I gained something. I felt like right now in my life, I feel like it's this interview, the opportunities that are coming up, it's gearing me towards something great, and I can feel it. And I so I'm taking opportunities like this to really help me gear me towards where I need to be. And I feel like I'm getting there again. I feel like I lost myself for a while. Sometimes you feel lost, but who says you can't be found? So I'm trying to find myself again. And we all go through this phase in life where we feel like we don't know what to do next. We feel like we're not challenged. And to me, when we feel that we're not challenged, it means that it's time for something new, something greater. Because being in the workforce for a year and a half now, honestly, I don't feel like I'm being challenged. I feel like I'm a robot. I'm doing the same thing every day. But my heart is somewhere else, and that's where that's my destination. So I'm trying to do what I can to gear me towards where my heart is. And I feel like I'll be there in 2018.
Okay. All right. Well, so thank you so much for being here with us, Kong. Before I say goodbye, I just want to say that I'm so honored to have you here because I definitely remember. Okay, I know when I was messaging you, I was like, hey, I didn't recognize you, but I'm honored because I still remember when I was in high school. That's right about when your music came out. I remember listening to it. I listened to it, and I loved it. It's just I never knew the people behind it. I never knew it. And so it's an honor that 10 years later, and I'm here talking to you. And so I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and thanks for being here with us, Tom.
Thanks, Linda. I really appreciate what you're doing. Just like I just said, I think that what you're doing now is leading you to something greater and where you need to be. And keep doing this. It's something great. It's something positive, and I think that seeing the people tune in and seeing people looking forward to this particular show, I think that it's changing lives. I don't know if you know this, but when somebody watch something like this, they learn one or two things, and they continue to live life to the fullest. So I think that what you're doing here is you're providing a tool for viewers and listeners to join like the podcast and to really learn something new. It's like a Friday night. It's 5 o'clock. You have family. I have family, and you could be anywhere in the world, but you choose to use your Fridays to do this. And I think that it's gearing you towards something bigger and greater. And when you get there, please share with the world too about where you're at and where you're what you're doing. But other than that, I really appreciate that you're taking the time to seek out people like myself to have these kind of conversations. And it looks like I'll be seeing you in December, so I look forward to I look forward to meeting you. And if there's anything that you need, feel free to reach out. Don't be a stranger. And continue the great work. I love what you're doing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. You too. Have a great evening, Kong.
Thanks, and thanks everyone for tuning in. I think that's this wouldn't be possible without the viewers, and seeing all these comments come in, and I see a lot of familiar faces too, and it's really nice to see people tune in and to see people say such positive things. So yeah, thanks. And oh, before we go, I always like to end this when I have a conversation. But tell me one new or good thing in your life at the moment.
Are you asking me or the
Yes, you.
viewers?
Yeah.
Oh, one good thing, one new thing. Is that what you're asking for? One
Yeah,
new
one
thing?
good or new thing in your life at the moment.
I'm glad you asked that. Actually, you're familiar with it. HCon, right?
Yep.
HCon. That's something that just happened spontaneously, and I got to talk with Jonathan, the amazing guy behind the scene, and so he kind of invited me to go. And so to me, it's really exciting because you kind of share that you like public speaking. I love public speaking, and so the whole idea of HCon and the beginning of HCon is exciting for me. So that's something that's new for me right now, and I'm excited about it.
Okay, well that sounds great. Well, we'll end the conversation here, and we'll pick it back up in December. So have
Okay.
a great weekend, and see everybody soon.
You too. I'll see you then. Bye, Kong.
Okay. Bye.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in with us. Until next time, we will see you guys. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye.